What's going on, people? Welcome back to a Get It Bucket podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron. As always, I'm joined by my guy, Kev. Kev, it's here, man. It's here. Your team survived. They're in the tournament and all that, so I know you're feeling a little relieved and all that. But what's going on, my guy?
Man, I'm great. Again, it's the Monday after Selection Sunday. Best time of the year. We finally made it. It's been a hell of a season. Been a long ride, but we here. Glad to be back on Get a Bucket as always. Shout out to everybody off the ball. Let's get it cracking, man. I can't wait to dive into these brackets and talk a few other things going on throughout the college hoops world.
Yeah. So obviously we got March Madness is here. Selection Sunday was last night. I'm sure Kev, his team, I'm sure it was pretty confident they would get in, but probably sweating a little bit. My Blue Devils get the 4 seed, Michigan State 9 seed, right?
Yep.
And they're taking on Mississippi State. Duke's taking on Vermont. We're playing. So before we get into it, there's a couple things we want to talk about. We talked about some firings on the last show, but a couple new firings, and we talked about NBA players, losing jobs, and a couple more NBA players lost their jobs, and two high-level names, and Juwan Howard and Jerry Stack. And we kind of felt Jerry, we talked about Jerry Stackhouse. It could, if they had a tough year, it might be in. But the Juwan stuff, we kind of, once we saw all the craziness of this year, the fight, the fight with the
trainer,
the trainer and all that, and his health issues, and just the disappointment of last season with all the NBA players they had on that team, which is kind of crazy, with his son and Kobe Buffkin and all that, and big man that went to Kansas, him leaving and all that, so a lot of things have. So before we get into, talking about brackets and all that, how we feel about that? I know you want to talk about Michigan and get off on them. So, how we feeling about these firings, and are these jobs, that are, a good job? Are they simple? Are they good jobs anymore?
Yeah, so real quickly on the Stack side with Vandy, we all know, right? Vandy is one of the toughest jobs in the country, especially at the high major level in the SEC. It's one of those schools, one of the few schools that still prioritizes academics over athletics. There's nothing wrong with that, but when we're speaking from the sports side of things, I mean, you got to put some money into it, right? And for Stack, that being his first job at the D1 level is a tough job. And honestly, I thought he did an okay job for the most part. For him to be a first-timer, right, he got in some good talent. Mm-hmm. A lot of the dudes left. You got Miles Studi at South Carolina doing his thing right now. You've had some dudes. Dylan DeSouza at Texas right now. He's had some dudes in that program, but collectively he can just never put it together. And so Vandy is just Vandy. But it does sound like Chris Mack is the front runner to get that job. I think that'd be a pretty good hire, being that he's a pretty good and proven coach at this level, right? He was at Louisville. Things went awry there, but I think he'll shake back. Of course, he had a stint at Xavier where he was really, really good. And so I think things will work out for him and Vandy. And it sounds like Vandy is actually going to invest in their coach this time. But Stack will land on his feet, whether it's in the NBA, whether it's in college still. He's going to be fine. He'll continue coaching. He'll continue to get better and evolve and adapt and adjust to whatever, lies ahead. For Michigan, though, and stop me if I go too long because it's a lot going on with this, right? You touched on some of it, and I don't want to make it seem like this is just Michigan's fault, because Juwan Howard did play a hand in his ultimate demise with Michigan, and I hate that it had to come down to this, because obviously Juwan Howard is one of the most legendary players to go to Michigan, being part of the Fab Five, which was an iconic group, right? So I don't want his legacy to be diminished at Michigan. It can't be, even if you're a fan of the Wolverines. But look, right, Michigan is a tough school to get into. They have a very high academic standard, and one of the biggest issues with Juwan was just, as you mentioned, all the off-the-court stuff, right? Even this year, they tried to get Terrence Shannon last year. This past offseason, Caleb Love was committed, but his credits didn't transfer over from North Carolina.
Right, I forgot that happened.
Right? Yeah. Exactly, right? Those are we're talking about two All-Americans that just you had a chance to get, and they both ended up, respectively, Terrence at Illinois in the Big Ten and Caleb Love, of course, at Arizona. So you miss out on those, right? And then the bigger issue on top of that was they would go after the top recruits like Isaiah Collier, like Isaiah Todd, like Josh Christopher, like a couple other guys. And when they struck out on those guys, they never really had a plan B, right? Like the plan B ended up, with all due respect, being like a plan F. Like it was like a last resort option, right?
It
Like they
really
had to go
was.
get guys from the Ivy League, with all due respect to Mike Smith from Columbia, which ended up being pretty good for them. But it just felt like once Franz Wagner and them left after they lost in the Elite Eight to UCLA, things just went downhill from there. And he could never figure it out. He could never kind of identify his culture, right? Even this year, you had the thing where him and Phil Martelli were like co-coaching. Like he was the head coach some games, he wasn't. And it's just like you had the Doug McDaniel situation. I seen he just entered the transfer portal today where he was suspended for 6 road games and he could play home games because of academic ineligibility. It's just like it's too much stuff going on. And as you mentioned, on top, the cherry on top of it was him getting into an alleged fight with the strength and conditioning coach, John Sanderson, who, if you didn't know, he just took a job at Illinois, which even makes that even more weirder, right? So it's like, it's so much stuff that went on off the basketball floor that it just felt like Juwan could never get a full grasp of his program. And this is where we're at. And so for Michigan and Vandy, clearly Michigan is a much better job, right? Just due to the fact that you're in the Big Ten. I know Vandy's in the SEC. Those are the 2 biggest conferences in the game right now. But for Michigan, you have a storied history, right? Players want to be there. You're in the state of Michigan, which produces some of the greatest basketball talent we've seen. You're going to have access to everywhere across the country, right? So to me, the only funky situation about this is, who do you go? Because you kind of have, like, Michigan is an acquired taste. People think it's a great job, but I'd say it's a good job. I wouldn't say it's like top 10, if I'm just being honest. Resource-wise, it might be, but like John Beilein, he maximized it, right? John Beilein was a hell of a coach. We've seen what he did at West Virginia, and at Michigan, he was amazing. Took him to multiple national championship games in 2018 and 2013. Fell just short, right? But I don't know, man. I feel like it's blame on both sides. I hate that it came to this again because Juwan is a beloved Wolverine, right? He's an all-time great. So it's unfortunate. I'm very curious to see where they go because they're going to have to pivot very fast because of this transfer portal and NIL world. They're going to have to make a hire in a quick decision within the next month and a half. So we'll see, man. But, Juwan, just like Jerry Stackhouse, is going to be fine. And, I'm sending the best for him, as you mentioned, because his health is a serious thing, too. So we'll see how it goes for him, though. But I'm wishing both of them the best.
Yeah, they'll pick up. They're probably more built for the NBA, to be honest.
For sure.
So they'll Juwan, I think he's won a championship as a coach and all that. So he'll bounce back. Stack's been in the league, so they'll get back in the NBA and they'll coach and maybe even become head coaches in the NBA. It feels like that's more of their role. Like I said, we talked about this so many times. It's tough. That may be a tougher transition than the other way around, than going from being a college coach to the NBA. And we've seen people struggle with that. But the transition, from being even an NBA player, and then now you're coaching college, and you got to do the whole thing, dealing with NIL, dealing with transfers, dealing with just recruiting in general. And for Juwan, had a great start, but it faded the last 2 years, disappointing. And for Stack, that's a tough job. That's a tough job. And last year had some success, but this year obviously it didn't go the way he wanted to. But they'll bounce back and all that. But yeah, just some additional guys that former hoopers in the league that are no longer with their school. So we'll see how those programs adjust and try to find who's going to be the right fit for them. But we got that covered, Kev. Let's get into it. Selection Sunday was yesterday, and we talked about this on the last show that teams like Indiana State are going to just be absolutely, sitting in fear because, as we know how these tournaments go, it doesn't go accordingly. And guess what happened? There was a lot of bid stealing, a lot of stealing happening, and we got a bunch of NC State. Was not a team to go to the tournament. They win 5 games in 5 days, and they beat Duke, they beat UVA, North Carolina, and they win the tournament, and they steal a bid. Oregon, another team, stealing a bid. doing their thing. Duquesne, UAB, we got a lot of teams. So that means we have teams that were on the bubble that thought we were going to get in, that didn't. So out of those teams that did not get in on the bubble, were there any teams for you that you felt like, yeah, they should have got it. Like they definitely deserve to get in, all that, so any teams that pop up, they feel like should have got in.
I definitely say Seton Hall, just because they did struggle. Look, they started off Big East play very hot. They were sitting top 3 in the Big East for like the first few weeks of Big East play. Then things started to go a little bit downhill. But I thought they had enough wins and quality wins at that. And they had some tough losses too. But to me, I thought the Pirates did enough to get into the NCAA tournament. I hate that for Kadari Richmond. I hate that for Alamir Dawes, Dylan Adeyasu, like all of them guys, right? They had a really good year, in my opinion. Shaheen Holloway is going to have them rocking for a long, long time. I firmly believe that. Another guy that's an alum there, right? A great PG that went there in the early 2000s, so in late 90s. So I feel bad for them. Providence too, right? Just because they were right there and they had some tough losses too, right? They were right there. Like, and especially because, Kim English year 1, but with that Bryce Hopkins injury, that was like the nail in the basket right there. And I hate it because Devin Carter played his soul out. And I respect the hell out of him for that, because a lot of guys in his position would have folded, if I'm just being honest, right? He went from being the dude that was the second scoring option and their best defender who would take on all the best offensive players in the country and in that league, to being the guy that literally has to make plays for other guys now. He has to be the number 1 scorer, and on top of, he's their premier perimeter defender, right? So he literally took every role possible and just put that team on his back. And you had other guys produce. Josh Adora was amazing for them in his senior season. Ticket Gaines, I thought, stepped up. Jaden Pierre had a pretty good sophomore season. Corey Floyd, amongst others. So I feel bad for those 2 Big East teams. And I'll just say real quickly, St. John's didn't deserve to get in. Like, I know everybody loves Pitino, and there's nothing wrong with that. I like Rick Pitino too. He's a hell of a coach. To me, he's in my top 5 all time. At the same time, you look at their non-conference schedule, all the big-time opportunities they had, they lost the game. And it's okay. It's only year 1. Rick Pitino is going to be fine. I know he only has a few years left, but they just didn't deserve to make it.
They lost 8 out of 10 in that middle portion of their Big East, conference play. They lost 8 out of 10. So that they ended well, but it's that middle that hurts them, where they lost 8 out of 10 and did some games that they should have won, but free throws, poor free throw shooting at the end cost them. I think it was the Creighton game, the UConn, like you win maybe one of them, or if you win both, if you sweep Creighton and you have a UConn win, you're in. But it's the little things, and that's why Pitino did his thing. Like we talked about it, he went out. He's like, and now look, now they're, because of those little things, now you're out. And they're not even an NIT. He's like, nah, we ain't doing none of that. If we don't get in the tournament, we ain't doing NIT. We ain't doing that. I'm getting in the lab. We're gonna figure out what this team gonna look, because it's gonna look very different. Soriano's gonna be gone, and a lot, so it's gonna look like a different team. So, but it's the little things, Kev. It's the little things that, Seton Hall is going to look back at a couple games like, man, if we didn't finish that, maybe if we get one of these wins versus the big schools, because the Big East was down this year. Three teams got in, Kev. 3.
Mm-hmm.
What's 3? Creighton, Marquette, UConn. It was down. It was, obviously the bottom of the Big East is the bottom of the big Georgetown and DePaul. We know about DePaul. They didn't win I don't think they win a game in the Big East, or they won one game in the Big East, so the bottom was really bad, and then like the Butlers, and all that, like it just weren't the same. So, it's crazy to just think that the Big East, you just automatically think, oh, they got like 5-6 teams at least. It's like, no, they just got 3, and you look at it, you're like, okay, and then say maybe Seton Hall, because they did finish 12-8 in Big East play, so they definitely had, definitely have an argument and all that, but they're gonna look back at some of their games and be like, if they had finished this off. But it's the little things, man, and you just can't rely on, hey man, if things go chalk, we'll get in with Doesn't happen.
And people gotta understand too, right? You just hit on a great point. Majority of the Big East is new coaches or they're rebuilding.
A lot of new coaches.
DePaul just fired their head coach. Now they got Chris Holtman. Butler with that model, he's only in year 2, I think was this past season. Yeah. Rick Pitino, St. John's, this was year 1. Shaheen and Seton Hall, this was year 2. Kim English and Providence, this is year 1. Right? So it's not really a knock on the conference. It's just the facts of the matter, right? I said it going into the season with St. John's and even Villanova. Kyle Neptune's in year 2, right? I know a lot of people are mad at him, but it takes time to build a program, whether people like it or not. That's just the facts of the matter. Exactly. So these things take time. And
Big East is going to be back next year. They'll be back.
Big East is going to be fine. I have no worry about that. And again, the portal helps tremendously. And these dudes, I guarantee you right now, are going to be sitting watching that portal every single day for the next month and a half. At the same time, though, it's okay. Like, it takes time to really lay your foundation, get your type of players in there, and then start to win consistently. And it's going to be a dogfight once everybody gets right. Because even DePaul getting Chris Holtman is a good move. Like, he's a dude that's had success there in that conference with Butler before.
That's more of what he should be. Like, Ohio State maybe was just a little bit too much for him. Maybe at DePaul where it's more low key and all that. It can't get worse. He really can't. No. I mean, he's gonna easily go to DePaul and they'll win 9 games, and that's obviously a major success, from what we've seen the last few years. So he'll go in and and be able to do work there, and I think that's more of where his fit it is. But like you said with the Big East, like a lot of new coaches, a lot of coaches just in year 2, or young in the phase and all that, so it'll be back. It'll be back. But a lot of youth in the conference and all that. A lot of teams that went through some very down, like a lot of losing streaks. You'll notice in the Big East, oh man, these 10, they lost 8 out of 10, like we just mentioned with St. John's, 8 out of 10. That's the difference between getting in the tournament and not. So, but that's definitely the conference. They'll be back next year. We'll be talking about them back to the usual 5, 6, 7 teams in the tournament and all that. But the bid steal, and we had talked about this. About conference tournaments and all, how like it's kind of unfair in a way, because you can do so much great stuff in a regular season and it can mean nothing because you had a bad night. How many buzzer beaters did we see? Who was it? Yale one on the buzzer beater. It's just stuff like that happens, and but like Indiana State's that one is like and we talked about like your Michigan State Spartans. They got him. Maybe if you were North Dakota State, maybe you don't get in, but you are Michigan State, and that's always listen. It's gonna help. That helps in this case. It probably helped you guys this year that you're still Michigan State. But the Indiana State, it probably sucks. And you think about it. They had the storyline. They have the players that people are rooting for. That Via kid, calling him. It's wild to call him. I can't even say that. That's wild to say. So I won't say it. But we got nicknames and all that, and they got a team that maybe the country's would be behind. The kind of that center I'd see people rooting for, and not to see them get in sucks. But that's just, amen. That's the nature of the beast,
And the worst part is, it sounds like they're about to lose their coach to St. Louis. It sounds like Josh Schertz is about to leave and go and take the St. Louis job because St. Louis fired Travis Ford. So it's a tough pill to swallow for the Sycamores. They deserve to be in, no doubt about it. Isaiah Swope was one of the better guards in the country. And Arch Madness is one of the better conference tournaments. I truly think that league should be a 2-bid league more often than not. Drake is a quality team too. Drake could win their first round matchup. We'll talk about it in a second, but Indiana State deserved it, man. I hate that it happened for them like that, and it's unfortunate. And again, it goes back to the bid stealers. If we just have the top of those conferences that you mentioned, the A10, the Pac-12, the ACC, if a top 3 seed in those conferences just wins their conference tournament, this doesn't even happen. We're not even talking about this, but this year more than ever, we've been talking about it's real parity in the game, and this is going to be much more common than ever. And that's why we can just talk about this, or I'll bring this up real quick. I don't want to go too deep into it, but the NCAA is going to have to consider expanding the tournament. They're just going to have to, especially with conference realignment. That's just the facts of the matter. And Oklahoma, oh
And that
man,
was what we're going to talk about because the first four out
yeah.
was Pittsburgh, Seton Hall, Indiana State. We just talked about and the Sooners. So we just talked about Indiana State. We talked about Seton Hall, Pitt, Oklahoma. Before we get into doing bracket stuff, should they feel a certain way, or is it valid that they're on the outside looking in?
For the Sooners, if they just win that game versus Houston, like you said, they're probably in.
They lose by a point.
They lose by a point off an offensive rebound. Jamal Shed mid-range for the game. You had a golden ticket opportunity. And to me, Porter Moses is a really good coach. And I think he addressed a lot of things this offseason with that team between getting, a few guys. I really love, John Hughley, Milos Uzan, Javian McCullum struggled. I'm not going to lie. He struggled for a good portion of the season. I feel like if you got a little bit more consistent play out of him, I mean, you probably
off season balling too.
Hot. Yeah, but when that Big 12 hit, it got a little different for him. He struggled a little bit. His stature, he's kind of a smaller guard. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about a big guard league, whether it's Taman Lipsey, Keyshawn Gilbert, Jamal Shed, LJ Cryer, the list goes on. I can go to Baylor with Ray J. Dennis and those guys. So it's tough. I wouldn't say they got robbed. I thought they were right there, though. And I think they'll be fine. I think moving forward, Porter Moser, if I'm him, I just schedule better in the non-conference. That's the answer. Like, if we're just being honest, speaking for my Spartans, outside of the clout of Tom Izzo's name, the reason that we're in is because our strength of schedule was top tier.
Yeah.
We played Duke. We played Arizona. We played James Madison, who's in the tournament. We played Baylor. We played Indiana State. Most coaches aren't scheduling like that. Buzz Williams learned his lesson the hard way. They missed the tournament last year, and he said, what am I going to do? I'm going to flip my non-conference tournament. They played Houston, and they lost. I think they played Dayton amongst a few others. And look at them. They're in right now. And they're hot right now, by the way. So it's all about just, yes, I understand for those coaches in the Big 12, you're thinking, okay, if I can just get enough wins in the Big 12, I'll sneak in. But at the same time, they're too worried about stacking up wins in the non-conference against bad teams. And sometimes, like, if you just test your team, you don't even have to necessarily win the game. Just keep it close, and that looks better on your schedule, and on your resume.
Pitt the same way. I mean, Florida was it, and they got washed by Florida.
And they lost. And the biggest indictment on Pitt, they lost to a Mizzou team that did not win a single game in the SEC. You win that game, you might be in. You can't lose the Miz.
I forgot Missouri did not win a game in SEC play. That's nasty. That's nasty.
Now, I love Coach Gates. This year too, though. He'll be good next year. I ain't worried about him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's not. I don't really think there's teams. The first four out. I don't think. Yeah, you can have an argument here or there, but it's still like there's not something. There's not really a team it's egregious. Like, oh my god, I really can't believe. Like, you could say maybe Seton Hall and all that, but other than that, it's not really, too many crazy names that are not in that you're like gonna fight about and all that. So let's get into it. Let's go over. We're gonna fill out a bracket. We're gonna go through the bracket. We're gonna start off with the East region and the UConn Huskies versus the Stenson. Are they the Haters? I didn't know that was
the Hatters.
The Hatters. All right, the Hatters. All right, I would say the Haters. I mean, that's a hell of a name. I didn't know that was their name, but UConn, Stetson are. I mean, do we have to really? I mean, we might have to think about it for like a second because what Purdue and Virginia have done to us has made us think about this for like a half a second. But I mean, it's UConn, right? It's not really.
Don't overthink it.
Yeah, don't overthink.
They got business to attend to.
Yeah. UConn's different. They're built different. All right. So this is a game we got to think about. Florida Atlantic, Final 14 last year. They lost at the buzzer last year, so they got some redemption on their mind. But boo-booey!
Yep.
Hey, man. He feels like, and I know a lot of people have said it, but it does. He's like one of those players that, like, he could take over a game. and he could win a game on his shoulders alone
by himself.
by himself. Florida Atlantic's up and down season, not as good as they were last year and all that, but they can still score. They're still solid, you know. But Northwestern can score too. So Northwestern, Florida Atlantic, who we got in the 8-9 matchup?
Man, this is gonna be the toughest first round game to me. Just because, as you mentioned, you got John L. Davis and Boo Buie. Those are two of the top guards in the country. I'm gonna lean Northwestern for all the reasons that you just said, and I think FAU's inconsistencies are kind of worrying me a little bit. But I also think that FAU is prepared for this moment. Obviously, right? They were in the Final Four last year before they lost to a Lamont Butler game winner. So, I'm gonna go with Northwestern, but I do think it's gonna be a dogfight. I think Boo Buie and the rest of those guys, Ryan Langborg, amongst other guys, they're dealing with some injury issues, but I think Chris Collins has had a hell of a year with that team, doing a great job. And so I'm gonna go with the Wildcats of Northwestern to get this one.
Northwestern, we got all right. San Diego State, the national championship runner-up from last year versus the UAB Blazers. San Diego State, not the season we expected, kind of a down season and all that, but they could still lock up on defense and still has a lot of experience, on this squad. UAB, solid team, but we got in this 5-12 matchup. The 5-12 matchup is one of the bigger upset.
Mm-hmm.
I think I recall I think every year for like the last 30 years or whatever, there's been at least one 5-12, something crazy like that, where it's like a guaranteed at least one of the 12 is going to win. It's just a matter of picking the right one and all that. So in this 5-12 matchup in the East region, San Diego State, UAB, does San Diego advance or does UAB pull off the upset?
I'm rocking with my Aztecs, man. Just because, shout out to UAB, Eric Gaines, Andy Kennedy for even getting to this point and winning the American Conference tournament. But I think San Diego State has a physicality factor that they just have not ran into, UAB that is, this season. And I think that's going to be the main key for them to win this game. They've had some slow offensive starts, but I truthfully believe that San Diego State's just a better team. That's all it comes down to at the end of the day.
San Diego State thinks favored by a lot too. So, but the Aztecs move on. Yale and Auburn. Auburn, the SEC champs. They have been playing really good, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Yale, as we talked before, they won at the buzzer to win it, win the Ivy League and all that. So, who we got in this matchup?
This was going to be a dogfight. And shout out to Yale because they made a lot of noise this year in the Ivy League. I'm going to go with Auburn, though, just because even though I don't trust the guard play of Auburn, I trust that front court between Jalen Williams, Janai Broome, Chad Baker-Mazara, and the way that they played in the SEC Conference tournament told me enough. And Bruce Pearl, he said it. He said when he got out there to Nashville, we're here to win 9 straight. Three here and then 6 in the main dance. And I said, okay, I like his mindset. So I'm going to go with the Auburn Tigers to get the job done here.
Auburn Tigers. All right. Duquesne and BYU. BYU cannot play games on Sunday. Random stat of the day. So, but BYU coming in, they could score. They could play some defense. Duquesne, like I said, a bid stealer and all that, winning their conference, solid team. So we got BYU, 6 seed, going against the 11 seed, the Dukes of Duquesne.
I'm going to go with Duquesne in this one.
Duquesne with the upset. Okay, so we got an upset, 11-6 upset.
Yeah, BYU is a tough guard offensively. They run a lot of good stuff, but I just seen Keith Danbrough announce that after the season, whenever they lose, he will be retiring. He was the former head coach for LeBron at St. Vincent St. Mary's.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with them just for the vibes. I'm going to go with Duquesne to beat BYU.
Duquesne with the upset. All right, the Fighting Illini versus the Moorhead State. Terrence Shannon has been on an absolute tear. Coleman Hawkins, is a good scorer. Who gets the W here?
Give me the Illini. Rolling into the tournament hot, winning the Big Ten Conference Tournament Championship. As you mentioned, Terrence Shannon, Marcus Damask, Ty Rogers, Coleman Hawkins, Quincy Guerrier, amongst others. I'm pretty sure and pretty positive Illini get the job done here.
Fighting Illini advance. All right. Next matchup: Washington State versus Drake. Got Tucker DeVries, who was on people's radar last year. Kind of disappointment last year, but see if he could bounce back this year. So who we got in this matchup?
Man, this one is tough too. I'm gonna go with Drake.
I think
they have enough dogs to get the job done. I love this Washington State team though. Shout out to Kyle Smith. They got a whole bunch of players, Miles Rice, amongst others. They got some dogs in that team, but I'm gonna go with Drake. I think that shooting is just insane, and one hot shooting night can carry you to a few wins. So I'm gonna go with the Drake Bulldogs to represent Arch Madness right here and get the job done versus the Pac-12, or what was the Pac-12.
Rest in peace to the Pac-12. All right, we got Iowa State versus South Dakota State.
Next,
right?
We know how that goes.
Yeah, that should be
big Cyclones.
Been rolling and all that. Does suffocate you on defense. One of the top 5 defenses in the country. They should take care of business. All right, let's head on over. Let's go. Let's go to the West region.
Yes, sir.
Start off. North Carolina takes on the winner of Wagner College, which is out here, not too far from me in Staten Island, New York, against Howard, right? Am I correct? They play Howard.
Yep.
So who wins? Wagner versus Howard in that play-in game.
I think that's gonna be a game too. I'm excited to see that first 4 game. I'm gonna go Wagner. I'm gonna go with your boys out there on the island. I think they get the job done, and then unfortunately, I got them losing to Carolina.
Yeah, Carolina. Regardless of who wins that play-in, which would be cool. Whoever wins that, they get the tournament win, so that counts. But all right, Kev.
Yes, sir.
Michigan State, Mississippi State. I know you're gonna be locked in this week.
First game on Thursday.
It's an early game with 12. It's a 12 p.m. game, East Coast time. So what? That's 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
You're gonna be waking up early, call out of work, get ready for that one. So Sparty, number 9 ranked. No, they got the number 9 seed, Mississippi State. Who we got?
I'm going with the real MSU. I'm going with my Spartans, man. It's gonna be a dogfight though. I love this matchup because real quick, a lot of people when they get into the tournament, they always like, oh, I want to get the easy seed and I want to get the easy path. This is the NCAA tournament. Every team that's here deserves to be here, and Mississippi State deserves to be here just as much as my Spartans do, probably more. And I think seeing a guy like Josh Hubbard, Tolu Smith, I think it's going to be a war. But I'm going to go with my Spartans. I think the only way they can truthfully beat us is if they kill us on the boards, which they most likely can do. But if we just rebound and play our game, I like my Spartans in this one.
I just think, we talked about Boo Booey before. I think this is Tyson Walker and be like, hey, man, y'all been letting me down all damn year. This is my time. I'm from New York, bro. Put it on my damn back.
Yes, sir.
So I'm putting the team on my back like I've been doing all year. I'm gonna continue. This ain't gonna end here. Ain't gonna end in the first round. Mississippi State's been playing better, but I think Sparty looks like Sparty again, and they take care of it. So I'm with you on that with Michigan State and all that. All right, another potential upset, kind of 12-5. We got Grand Canyon versus St. Mary's. St. Mary's a 5 seed. They won their conference tournament and all that. They took care of business. Grand Canyon, they got Grant Foster. People, he's been a name and all that. He's had a really good season. He's a 20-point per game guy. Grand Canyon, St. Mary's, is this a 12-5 upset, or are we going to go with St. Mary's here?
Yeah, this is one of the few times that I rock with 12. I think the 12 seed gets the job done.
12 too. I'm with 12 too.
I feel like the Lopes, the thing that always worries me about St. Mary's, they just play so slow. And in the tournament, you got to get up and down. Like, they have players that can go, but in the tournament, you got to get up and down. And if St. Mary's has a slow start and you're fighting to get back, your defense can get you back into it, but you got to eventually score. And the way that Bryce Drew, shout out to him, the younger brother of Scott Drew, he just got them guys playing. They ran through their conference, and I think the Lobes got it right now. You mentioned Tom Grant Foster, so give me the Lobes down there in Arizona, man. I got them advancing.
Shout out to the elite online school in Grand Canyon and all that. I've got accepted to them a few times. They keep hitting me up with emails still.
Oh man.
Put them on the spam list. All right. The Crimson Tide taking on the College of Charleston. Alabama can't stop nobody on defense, but man, they can sure put up points. Does this continue? Does College of Charleston have a shot because of that? Well, I think they do.
Do
because
too.
Bama can't stop nobody. It gives College of Charleston a shot. So who we got in this 13-4 matchup?
I think this is the year Charleston gets it done, man. Shout out to my guy Bryce out there in South Carolina, Pat Kelsey, winning the CAA. To me, I just think it's their year because, especially with, as you mentioned, Bama can't guard nobody. They could put up points on everybody, but eventually you have to get a stop. You have to, especially in the NCAA tournament, you have to get a stop. If you can't get a big stop, you're not going to win games. So I'm going to go with Charleston just because if they get hot from three again, I can say this about anybody, but they've shown they can get hot from three in multiple games this year. So I'm going to go with COC, man.
Yeah, and they can shoot the three, and like I said, Bama can't stop anybody. So that's definitely a good recipe for an upset. So we got College of Charleston with the upset. The Lobos against the Clemson Tigers. Patino got them boys playing good basketball. We got Eddie House's kid hooping, Jamal Mashburn kid hooping. We got a bunch of second-generation kids out there hooping. But, you know, Joe Girard and PJ out there in Clemson, still vets and all that. So I think this is going to be one of the better games in the first round and all that. I think it's going to go down to the wire. But who we got in this 11-6 matchup between the Lobos and the Tigers?
I'll put it on wax right now. The Lobos are my Cinderella team. I think fate is with them. Obviously, Rick Pitino thinks he got snubbed, so it's going to pass down to his son, Richard, who won the Mountain West Conference Tournament. You said it all right there, right? They have guard play for days between Jalen House, Jamal Mashburn Jr., shout out to Donovan Dent from Cali. He's been amazing this year, one of the better up-and-coming point guards in the country. You got Mustafa Amzil. You got Nelly Jr. Joseph. To me, the Lobos match up very well with this team, and I just think their guard play is going to overwhelm Clemson. Clemson's guard play has not clicked like most people thought it would. We've seen they lost to Boston College in the ACC tournament, so I'm going with the Lobos to get the job done here and pull off the quote-unquote upset against the Clemson Tigers.
I know it's an 11-6, but I feel like this wouldn't even be – I mean, technically it's an upset because it's 11-6, but I think this is – man, I'm confident that New Mexico going to win. I mean, no disrespect to Clemson. Like I said, they got vets and all that. PJ Hall's, you know, he could play. Like I said, Joe Girard played a lot of basketball, but I don't know. The New Mexico team is just different. But Colgate versus the Baylor Bears. Who we got in this matchup?
Give me Baylor. I watched out to Ken's show, Competitive Hedge. I feel the same way. Colgate gets in every year, and everybody is like pleading for them to win, and they can just never get it done. So I'm gonna go with Baylor.
It's like the last 5 times they get in something like that, they've lost every time.
So just give me the Bears and Scott Drew and them to move on in advance.
Yeah, they just got the better. I mean, they're another team that struggles defensively and all that. So if you're Colgate, you gotta get up early and all that. But Baylor's just. I think they figure it out. They get it done too. I'm with you on that. Nevada versus Dayton. Who we got in this one?
I'm going with the Pack. I'm going with Steve Alford in Nevada. You know, Keenan Blackshear, Jared Lucas, shout to him. He's a Cali product. I think they match up very well. And DeRon Holmes is going to kill. I'm not worried about that. Like, he's a player. We all know that. He's on NBA. You know, he's an NBA prospect for a reason. But again, it goes back to the guard play. I think I truly trust in Nevada's guard play more than I trust in Dayton's. And to me, Steve Alford got a little bit more tournament experience than Anthony Grant. So I'm going to go with Nevada to get the job done here.
Yeah, I think the vets get them over the top. Like I said, Lucas is a hooper too. But, you know, he's like 36, so about time.
It's his moment. If anybody can get hot, he can get hot.
Yep. All right. And to finish it off, Arizona, Long Beach State.
Arizona. Shout out to Don Munson for getting him in there, but come on now. It's all Arizona here, especially coming off that Oregon loss.
Imagine getting fired and still you fired, but you still at your job.
I gotta salute it. That's
I mean, credit. I give you credit. I give anyone credit who can get fired and still do your job. Shout out to anybody. All right, let's head on over to the South. Houston, not even Houston. Yeah, we're not. That's easy. All right, Nebraska versus A&M.
It's gonna be a
we
game
get
too.
to see the real A&M that we thought maybe was going to win the SEC. Well, I thought they're going to win the SEC. Or does Nebraska and Tominaga, continue this incredible season that they've had?
Yeah, honestly, this is a game where I really don't mind who wins. Right? For this show, I'm gonna go Nebraska. I'm gonna show a slight Big Ten bias here, but I do think A&M and Wade Taylor can get hot and go on a run. But I'm gonna go Nebraska because the Japanese Steph Curry, Keisei Tominaga is just different. Rink Mass has been one of the best and least talked about big men in the country. You got Bryce Williams, you got a couple other guys, you got Jack Hoiberg. So to me, I'm rolling with the Cornhuskers, man. Let's get the job done.
I think A&M gets it done. I think they're gonna get hot.
I can see that.
Wade Taylor is fine. He's had a bit of an inconsistent, inefficient season, but they still got him and Radford. I think they get it done, but no, this should be a good one though. That's going to be a fun game to watch. But we'll go with Nebraska for this. We'll advance Nebraska in this. Wisconsin versus James Madison. As we know, they start off a season. They beat your Sparty to kick off the season, and they've had an absolutely tremendous season, 31-3. Just an absolute, TJ Big Stat Hooper and all that. But Wisconsin, AJ Story and all that, Kroll, they got guys. Who gets the W here, Kev?
Yeah, shout out to Mark Byington. They've had an amazing season, as you said, but I'm gonna go with the Badgers. I think they struggled like most of February and a little bit into this month of March, but I think they're slowly but surely putting the pieces back together and starting off the way that they did early in the season. And as you mentioned, AJ Storr, Chucky Hepburn, Connor Seagen, Max Klesman, they just got guys. And so I think AJ Storr could be a separator, but I expect that one to be close. But give me the Badgers.
The Badgers advance. All right. The Duke Blue Devils versus Vermont. This is in Brooklyn too, man. When is this?
Man.
When is the 22nd? 22nd is on a Friday. Ooh.
Friday at what, Barclays?
Friday night in Brooklyn. That might have to be a move. I might have to do that. I mentioned the Duke game in a little bit. But the Blue Devils, obviously, they got bounced by NC State, who wound up winning the ACC tournament. The up and down season, we've talked about Duke. It's kind of been Filipowski, Jeremy Roach show, and McCain has shown definitely in the second, middle to second half of the season. He definitely showed up, but he's still a freshman and all that. A lot of people are rocking with Vermont. Kev, are you one of those people who will be rocking with Vermont, or are we going to go with the Blue Devils taking care of business?
Yeah, I'm gonna take your Dukies to handle business. Nothing against Vermont. They could win this game, representing the America East for I think like at least the past 4 or 5 years. But give me Duke in this one.
If Duke was in any other region, like if they were playing, say they're a 4 seed, right? If they were playing Yale, or if they were playing College of Charleston, or if they were playing Stanford, I'd be like, maybe. But I think we got a good region. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe to the Sweet 16. Then the Sweet 16, obviously Houston, they probably get walloped because they're too physical. But we'll talk about that. But all right, Texas Tech versus the NC State. NC State, who won their the ACC tournament. Texas Tech. Who we got in this one?
I'm going with the Red Raiders. Grant McCasland, year one. I love Pop Isaacs. Joe Toussaint has been solid. They got a couple other guys, Darion Williams. I think this is a team that could truly go on a run. And so give me the Red Raiders in this one. Shout out to NC State, though, for even getting to this point, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think it ends. I think it was a nice little cool run. You know, coach he got paid or he got extension, you know, because they won the AC tournament. But yeah, that ends. Yeah, that's gonna end. So Texas, the Red Raiders advance. University of Kentucky versus Oakland. I feel like Oakland, they're like there every other year and all that. But Kentucky this year, up and down, but they still got, you know, obviously a lot of talent and all that. But so who we got there? Is there a potential upset or does the Wildcats get it done?
Wildcats gonna handle business. And shout out to Oakland too, Greg Campy, Rocket Watts, all them guys, but Kentucky's gonna hold it down.
I'm with you on that. All right, so we got to play in. We got the Florida's the 7th seed. They'll take on the winner of Boise State or Colorado. Colorado kind of disappointing this year. You know, they got a lot of talent. You know, Silva, you know, Cody Williams and all that. They got guys, but kind of been disappointing. So who wins the play-in, and then who wins the winner of that? Who do you think between Florida and Boise or Colorado? Who you got?
Man, in that one, I'm gonna go Colorado to beat Boise State, and then I'm gonna go with Florida to beat Colorado because sadly Micah Handlogton had that nasty injury.
Out, broke his leg. Broke his leg.
He was one of the better rim protectors in the country, but I'm gonna go with Florida to still advance. I think Florida gets the job done here and holds it down for the SEC.
Yeah, Colorado. I mean, I would pick Colorado to beat Boise. I'm with you there. I did when I was on Ken's show. I did pick Colorado. I don't know. I liked them all year, but they've been disappointing me. But they have played better of late.
Mm-hmm.
But that sounds. You know, I would rock with Colorado. But you know, let's go with Florida in this case. All right, Western Kentucky Marquette. There is no Tyler Kolek, but does that make you think? Or are we still like, all right, they got enough. They got Cam Jones. They got, you know, Dick, you know, that's enough to get it done.
Marquette should handle business. Cam Jones, also David Joplin, Chase Ross, Shaka Smart. They got redemption on their minds, if we're being honest, from last year. When we beat them, I think they're going to be very hungry. And they know that even though Kolek's not going to play this game, if they advance, he's going to start playing. So I'm going to go Marquette.
Marquette gets it. All right, we're going to the Midwest. Purdue. Does it matter? I don't even know who they're playing and who's playing the play-in. Was it Grambling versus?
Yeah, Grambling versus Montana State. I'd say Montana State wins that game, and then obviously it's Purdue.
Yeah, I know Purdue has made us think and it's going to happen, but let's say something happens. They got something got to like people got to get fired. Program got to get, you know, relegated to like, you know, the SWAC or something. Like they got to get, but that's not happening this year. I think Purdue's on a mission, and they get it done. Utah State versus TCU. This one should be a really good one.
Yes.
Who we got in this one? Jameer Nelson has had, you know, solid season for TCU, you know, but you know Utah State got some guys on there. So who we got?
TCU. This one's going to be tough. I think this is going to be a banger just as much as FAU Northwestern is. But, you know, shout out to Darius Brown, Danny Sprinkle, that whole Utah State program. They've had an amazing season. I just think TCU has the athletes between Emmanuel Miller, Micah Peavy, amongst others, that is just going to put them over the top. Jameer Nelson Jr., as I mentioned, you know, Trey Tennyson. So give me the Horned Frogs to advance in this one.
Whoever plays at their own pace is going to win this game.
100%.
Whoever controls the pace wins this game.
100%.
All right. Now, Gonzaga, McNeese State. Obviously, McNeese State is the darling and all that. You know, Wells has been tremendous this season and all that. Gonzaga does not feel like a 5 seed this year. It's crazy to think they're a 5 seed, but they just don't feel it. And they got players, but this is another juicy matchup. You know, 12-5 and all that. And like I said, we've talked about it. We've seen 12-5 upsets a lot. Are we gonna see another one?
I know it's the trendy pick, but I'm gonna say no. I think Gonzaga handles business. They've been playing a lot better. Obviously, they went to Rupp Arena and knocked off Kentucky, and I think they're finally starting to put the pieces together. You know, with Ryan Nembhard, with the bigs, with Anton Watson. So, give me the Bulldogs of Gonzaga to knock off Will Wade. But I think this is gonna be another banger right here too, though. I think McNeese keeps it close.
This should be a good one. I'm looking forward to this one. So we'll go with the Zags. All right. Maybe another upset. The KU team has been very, very disappointing, but they're dealing with some injuries. The guys are banged up. McCullough's been banged up, and he's had a really good season. Hunter Dickinson's there. Does Sanford pull off the upset, or does Kansas look like the Kansas that we all know when they're right, that they look like?
I think Sanford gets them. I really do.
Okay, so we got an upset. We got a 13-4. Okay,
I think Sanford gets them for the reason you just mentioned, because Hunter dislocated his shoulder, and those injuries, with your Knicks right now with Julius, we don't know. They're all different, right? That's tough. And then McCullough, it sounds like he'll be good to go, but he's still dealing with the little nagging injury. So I'm gonna go with Sanford just because that buckyball is real. They play a great brand of basketball, offensively especially, and I think KU sadly is gonna get knocked out the paint round one this year.
So we got an upset. Sanford over KU. All right. The Oregon Ducks taking on the South Carolina Gamecocks. Niecy Johnson and these boys predicted to finish last in the SEC by most people, and they had a tremendous season, 26 wins and all that. So does it continue, or does Oregon take care of business after winning the Pac-12 championship?
I think Oregon wins this game just because I love South Carolina, just as you mentioned. BJ Mack, Colin Murray Boyles, amongst others, Talon Cooper. You mentioned Michi, Miles Studi. I just feel like they're one of them teams like St. Mary's that plays too slow again. In Oregon, they have N'Faly Dante, who was a menace in that paint. He is a big-time rim protector, and he's one of the better bigs in the country. So I'm going to go with the Ducks, with Jackson Shelstead, with Jermaine Couisnard, amongst others. Give me the Ducks to advance in this game.
The Oregon Ducks. We will not see no upset. All right. The Creighton taking on Akron. Creighton, they got a lot of their guys from last year. Can they get back to the Elite Eight? Who wins this matchup?
The Blue Jays. I think they're another team, just like Marquette in the Big East. They're on a mission. They're on a mission to get back to where they were last year and get potentially even further. So give me the Blue Jays led by Greg McDermott.
I'm with you on that. So we got Virginia taking on Colorado State. Am I right?
Yep.
In the play-in, and the winner plays Texas. So who wins the play-in, and then who wins against Texas?
I think Colorado State picks them both off. Isaiah Stevens, one of the better point guards in the country. Patrick Cartier, another guy. You got a lot of talent on this team. And to me, when you have a guard as good as Isaiah Stevens, I truly think he can pick Tony Bennett apart. We've seen it happen before. Jason Preston a few years ago at Ohio did it. We've seen it last year with Furman. They did it to Virginia. So give me the Rams to beat Virginia and then go on and also beat Rodney Terry in Texas.
We got St. Peter's is back in the tournament. Can they pull off another Cinderella run, or does Tennessee take care of business with their potential player of the year from Dalton Connect?
Tennessee should take care of business. It's no Shaheen Holloway this time for St. Peter's and the Peacocks, but shout out to them for getting back. But Dalton Connection is going to be too much to handle, especially coming off that tough loss early in the SEC tournament against Miss State. So give me the Vols in this one to handle business.
Okay, so we got all 4 twos right now advancing. Now, more than likely, potentially, there's one that usually, if you had to pick 1-2 to potentially get bumped, who's that 2 that can get bumped? So we just had Tennessee, and we got Colorado State, them playing Arizona versus Nevada. We have Iowa State, Drake, Marquette, Florida.
Florida Marquette.
I am with you on that. Yeah.
Florida Marquette. That's a tough matchup for Marquette right there because Florida has the defense to match up with them, and they have the size. Right? Again, Micah Henlowton being hurt is devastating, but Florida's the type of team that they have the guard play to go toe to toe with those guys in Cam Jones and Tyler Kolek with, Walter Clayton, Zion Pullen, amongst others. So I think Florida could definitely get Marquette out of here.
All right. So let's go back. We are on the round of 32. UConn, FAU.
The Huskies. Give me the Huskies.
The Huskies advance. I'm with you on that too. Auburn and San Diego State.
Give me the Aztecs. Give me the Aztecs. I truly think, again, because Auburn is front court based, San Diego State has the size and the athleticism to match up with them with a few different guys. Jay Powell, Jaden Ledee, Richie Saunders. So I think they got the matchups for Auburn, and I think their guards are better with Darion Trammell, Lamont Butler, Reese Dixon Waters. Give me the Aztecs to beat Auburn in that one.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. BYU versus Illinois.
That's going to be a game because Illinois defense scares me. But I'm going to go with the Fighting Illini. I think Terrence Shannon will be a difference maker in that game. Potentially Marcus Demas too. Give me Illinois to move on.
So we got Illinois in the Sweet 16. We got Drake, Iowa State. Upset?
A battle in the state of Iowa? I'm going to say no. I think Iowa State, you can make a case Iowa State has the best defense on any team in the country this year. And I think that will continue to show itself on top of the offensive additions they have with Milan, Keyshawn Gilbert, Tamin Lipsey getting better. So give me the Cyclones to advance against an in-state opponent.
This is a nice little stat that ESPN had. Number 2 seeds are 10-1 versus 10 seeds since 2015. Can you name that team that won that game? What 10 beat a 2?
10 beat a 2. You know the year?
2022. Recently.
Ooh. 2022? Man. I'm not even gonna try and guess. Just tell me. Let me see. Canes? Oh, yeah. That was after they beat SC. Yeah, I remember that. I didn't know they were 10 seed that year, though. I would have never guessed that.
All right, so we're going to go North Carolina. All right, this one's going to North Carolina versus Sparty.
Give me my Spartans, man, to shock the world. Give me, in Charlotte, back against the wall. This is where Tom Izzo shuts the whole world up and says, hey, we deserve to be here, and we getting Tar Heels out the paint. And then after that, we come into play in LA at Crypto. Give me Michigan State.
Nothing will make me more happier than seeing that. Nothing would make me more happy seeing after getting swept by North Carolina, seeing them get bounced in the first weekend. But all right, Charleston, College of Charleston versus Grand Canyon.
Whew. That's a mid-major battle right there. Man, I'm gonna go Charleston. I'm gonna go Charleston.
We're gonna
rock with Charleston.
We're gonna rock with Charleston on that one. All right, Baylor versus New Mexico. Patino versus Drew.
I'm going to give Baylor the slight edge right there just because I trust their front court a little bit more than New Mexico's. Give me Baylor right there.
The Baylor Bears and all that. Arizona, Nevada.
The Wildcats. Give me Arizona.
So we got with that. Let's go up to the South region. Houston versus Nebraska.
The Cougars. Jamal Shea, Kelvin Sampson.
Yeah, Nebraska. This is too much.
Yeah.
The Blue Devils taking on the Wisconsin Badgers, rematch of the 2015 National Championship. Who you got in this one?
I'm going to go Duke, but that will be a hell of a game. I'm not going to lie. Matchup-wise, I'm intrigued by that a lot, but I'll go Duke for your sake.
I'm going with Duke. I feel good, too, about it, too. Like I said, any other region, on the way to Sweet 16, I'd be like, man, they might lose in the first round. They might definitely lose the second, but this one, I'm like, okay, I feel confident in them. So I'm with you. I feel good about them going to Sweet 16. Texas Tech versus Kentucky.
Give me the Red Raiders here.
The Red Raiders.
Again, I truly believe Pop Isaacs can get hot.
Yeah.
They have other guys. They have Chance McMillan. They have Darion Williams. They match up really well. They don't have the size pause or like the crazy athletes like that. But from an offensive perspective, they can go toe to toe with Kentucky. And again, they don't have the NBA prospects like that. But trust me, this team, and they can guard more than anything. That's why I trust them in this game. And yeah, give me the Red Raiders right here.
The Red Raiders get it done. We go to the next matchup, and it is the Marquette taking on the Florida Gators.
Give me Florida.
Gators. We got the Gators advancing. Yeah, I'm with you with there. I've just never been crazy about Marquette this season, and I'm with you. All right. The Horned Frogs taking on Edie and them boys. Does Purdue continue their the run, or TCU with the upset?
TCU can beat them, but I'll go Purdue. I'd take Purdue here.
Samford, we had the upset in round 1 of Kansas. Can they continue the Cinderella run and defeat Gonzaga?
Yes.
Yes.
Give me them over Gonzaga. Give me Samford over.
Happens. It's time to pack up. It's
Gonzaga.
time to pack up Gonzaga and mark you. It's come to a point. Yeah, and like Marquette is mid. Yeah, I'm with you. I think they're mid. I just don't think they're as good as people try to put them. I just don't see it. And now Kolek is banged up, and that's definitely going to hurt. But yeah, pack up Gonzaga, and it's a wrap. Like they've had so many chances, But you know what? This is going to be the year where I watch them make a run. This would be the year when they're on the radar. But Creighton versus Oregon.
The Blue Jays. Trey Alexander, Ryan Kalkbrenner, Baylor Shireman.
I'm with you on that. Tennessee versus Colorado State.
I'll go Tennessee. Rocky Top.
All right. So we have our Sweet 16. We'll start back up at the East. UConn versus San Diego State.
UConn. Rematch the national championship game. I'll go UConn.
Iowa State versus Illinois. That's a good game, man.
Iowa State. That's a great game. I'll go Iowa State, though.
Defense, that's a be.
Yeah. Give me Iowa State, though. I think they'll get more stops if that happens.
Yeah. Who goes to the Elite Eight? Sparty or Charleston?
Michigan State, man. Come on now.
Michigan State.
Come on now.
It would be crazy if this happened, it could happen. This really could happen. I mean, you go from having the season you have to being like, man, we actually got a good break. Like this could go your way.
100%.
Like this 100% really could happen. All right, so we got Sparty advancing. We got Baylor, Arizona.
The Wildcats.
Arizona
Wildcats.
Advance. All right, Duke, Houston. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You got to go. I mean, obviously I'm really rooting for my Blue Devils, but if there's a matchup that I'm just like, if this was a different Sweet 16, which is crazy, it's like the first 2 games, I'm like, oh, we're in the great region. But then once you get to the Sweet, I'm like, oh, man, if this was any other team, maybe we could have a shot, maybe. But nah, Houston, too physical.
Yeah, give me the Cougars here, man.
We got Texas Tech and Florida.
The Red Raiders, again.
I'm with you there.
Give me Texas Tech.
We got Purdue and Samford. Does Samford continue their Cinderella run, or does Zach Edey get it done?
Yeah, I think Edie and them boys get it done and knock off Samford.
We got Purdue advancing. We got Creighton and Tennessee. This would be a battle.
Yes, a battle of the ages at that. But I'm going to go with the Blue Jays, man. It's going to be tough. The main thing, you got to slow Connect down. Way easier said than done. But I think Creighton has a few buys that can do that between Shireman, Trey Alexander. That's 10 fouls each. So I'm going to go, and they got a rim protector and Kalkbrenner that can slow that down too. So give me the Blue Jays, man.
All right. Elite Eight. Who's going to the Final Four? UConn versus Iowa State.
UConn. That's a hell of a game right there, though. That's a hell of a game right there.
That's gonna be a dog fight too.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a dog. But I just think UConn has too much. Can't spend,
Mhm.
and that's. We got a question here. You don't think Purdue will choke? I don't. I think it's different. I think they're just. I it's hard to do it again, man. To do what happened like that last year, man. I think different mentality. They're better. Those freshmen are now a year older, you're more mature. I just don't see it happening. Them, like if we're talking choke at first round now, I don't think first
Yeah.
round. But I mean, can they lose second round? No.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I just don't see it. I think they're just built different this year. I think last year if that don't humble you, man, I don't know what. All right,
Yeah.
so we got UConn advancing. Okay, Michigan State, Arizona. Does it end here? Does it end? Or
Yeah.
it
I'm gonna
ends
say
here?
that. I'm gonna say it does. Yeah, I think Arizona gets this again.
Arizona, Love versus Tyson Walker. I mean,
Movie scene.
that's not a lot of defense, but we're gonna get scoring them with them too. They're gonna get buckets and all that. So we got we got UConn and Arizona set up at Arizona, which is home court advantage in them. But we'll go Houston versus Texas Tech, who's going to Arizona.
Houston.
The Cougs advance to the Final Four, and they'll be playing with this matchup. Purdue Creighton. This is going to be a good one too. If we see this, but can Purdue get a step closer to redeeming themselves, or does the Blue Jays advance to the Final Four?
I think this is where Purdue falls short because if anybody in the country can slow down Zach Edey, it's Ryan Kalkbrenner. It's Ryan Kalkbrenner. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And I think playing big physical wings for Purdue is a challenge, like a Trey Alexander, like a Baylor Shireman. So give me Blue Jays to knock them off right here.
Yeah.
Lay, I disagree with you. Just because I think like I just stated 5 seconds ago, if anybody can guard Zach Edey, it's Ryan Kalkbrenner of the Creighton Blue Jays. I firmly believe that in my heart.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they definitely have a nucleus for that. So we're Final Four. We are in Arizona. We have 2 number 1 seeds, a 2 seed, and a 3 seed in the Final Four. Let's start off with the defending national champions taking on the Arizona Wildcats, who is going to the national championship.
UConn. I was about to say Arizona, but I'm gonna go UConn. Slim, very slim.
Goes back to the national championship with a shot at going back to back. Potentially the first team to do it since I think the Florida team, right? That's the last
Billy
team.
Donovan, Joakim,
Donovan, them boys.
Brewer. Yep.
So who will they play in the national championship? Is it the Houston Cougs, who are the number 1 team in the country, or the Creighton Blue Jays? This is gonna be another one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Houston though. I'm gonna go
Houston advances to the national championship. Kelvin Sampson with a chance to win his first national championship, or UConn back to back. So who gets it done? Does Kelvin get his first national championship, Kev, or does UConn win back to back national championships? Who gets it done?
H-Town. I'm going with the 7-1-3, man. I'm going with the Cougars to finally cut down the nets.
Houston
back against the wall.
Win the national championship. Kelvin Sampson wins his elusive first national championship in our bracket. So that's who we got winning the national championship, the Houston Cougs. Which, I mean, remember, Kev, I mean, if this was to happen, everybody was worried about can Houston handle the Big 12, right? We talked about it. We both said, is it the other way around? Can the Big 12 handle Houston? And what happened? Big 12 couldn't handle Houston. And they had some injuries. Arsenal got hurt. He missed. He was out. End of last year he missed. So, and they still have enough depth. OJ Cry and them boys, Shed have enough. And in this situation, they hoist up, and Kelvin Where does if this happens? Where does Sampson like? He's already. Is he not a Hall of Fame coach already? I'm not sure. I know, but if not, this locks him in. If he's not
Sampson.
already,
Yeah,
it's Sampson because this is legit. The only thing he's missing is a chip. It is a national championship. So this would be good. I mean, this would be a great Final Four. Yeah, Houston is electric, man. They just I know some people may be kind of thinking of, oh man, look what Iowa State did to them, right? And that's gonna be on people's head, like, oh man, they only scored so many points. Like, what if they can't get a bucket? No pun intended. And that's the only way I think Houston can. You have to be able to get up on them early and force them to create shots and all that. And I think if you do that, you can have a chance to beat Houston. But if not, then I mean they're pretty unstoppable.
yeah. And I don't want to say that they didn't value that Big 12 Conference Championship game because they were dealing with some injuries. Obviously, Juwan Roberts tried to give it a go, but he ended up sitting out majority of the game, and Iowa State just ran off with it. But I think losing the game like that in that fashion just motivates you to get right back on the court and be even better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody can motivate his squad, it's Kelvin Sampson. And when you have one of the better point guards in the country in Jamal Shead, you're going to compete in most games. And LJ Crier's been playing better. Emmanuel Sharp's been playing better. Yes, JoJo Tucker's out for the year, which is sad for his freshman season, but you got guys that are stepping up. Javier France has been playing better. So to me, they have the guard play. Most importantly, they have the defense. They rebound, and they're tough as hell. And that's why I truly think that Kelvin is not only going to win the Big 12 regular season, I think they're going to cut down the Nets in Phoenix and win it all. And as you said, capture his first elusive national championship.
So who's under the most pressure?
Ooh, it's easy for me. It's two programs. One is my rival, Purdue, because we all know for various reasons you just lost to a 16 seed last year. You have one of the greatest players in your program's history in Zach Edey, right? You can't waste this run, right? His legacy right now in the tournament is losing to teams that they should have beat, whether it was North Texas, whether it was St. Peter's, whether it was Freddie Dickinson. Now you have this year on the line. And then number two, we're going to get spicy. It's Kentucky. Kentucky has not been out the first weekend since Tyler Hero was in a uniform.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
They had Keldon Johnson and they had PJ Washington. All three of those guys have played full NBA careers since then. If Calipari doesn't get out of the first weekend, which we didn't have him because honestly, I truly think Texas Tech is a horrendous matchup for them. If Cal doesn't win that game, hey man, it's going to be some tough conversations in Lexington this summer. I promise y'all that.
You know what's crazy? Like you mentioned Purdue and all that. Like it's Zach Edey. We don't really think about college players that have, like legacies like that, and like people are gonna think about. Like I always think about with JJ Redick.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that bring up, man, he never won a national championship. I mean, you don't think about that, especially the nowadays of one and done. Like the guys are, we don't really care if they don't win a national championship. No, you remember? Oh, yeah, they didn't win, but it's like whatever. But like his legacy is really on the line because, like you said, all these early and especially losing as a one seed, that could, not that it's going to affect him whether, because he's still going to be one of those players we're trying to figure out if he's going to be, how good of a pro can he potentially be. But that's going to linger with him though. Like if they get bounced early, like that's the dude that keeps losing in the first, in the first weekend and all that. So like Purdue, Painter, like this is massive. This is, I think it's crazy to think like they just got to get past that first game. That's sure. Just get past that, and I think they can make a run to at least the Elite Eight because I think they'll take care of it. Well, the way we got it, TCU, Sanford, that should be a cakewalk for them. But just getting past that first game, that mental hurdle. Okay, we lost last year in the first game. Like we got to just get out of their head because that's going to be in their head. Like your kids, you're going to think about that. Like we lost that first game against whether it's Middle Tennessee or it's Grambling. They've got to win that game by what, and they got to stomp them out. Just so you be like, all right, that's out. What last year was last year. Whatever, that's over now. Now we can focus. We play TCU or it's Utah State or whatever. Now we can go because after that, they got a nice route to the Elite Eight where they'll take on potentially Creighton and all that. But there is pressure. There's
A
pressure
lot.
for them. Like I said, Kentucky, Cal, can he get far enough? Tennessee too.
Yep.
Rick Barnes, man. Like we know you could build teams and all that, but can you take a team deep? When's the last time he's gone far too? Like it feels like it's been a mile. You don't got KD.
Nope.
You don't got PJ and all of them, but don't connect. You got a All-American, first team All-American, National Player of the Year type player. Can you figure a way to get him? To get far. We'll see. So Rick Barnes, Arizona too, because it feels like they're another team that gets bounced early and all that.
Facts.
So can they get over that hump too? Because if it wasn't for Purdue, we'd be talking about Arizona getting bounced, about how they get bounced early and all that. So can they do? But Caleb Love being there, I'm pretty confident that they'll be at least a Sweet 16 type of team and all that. But I mean, I don't know if Duke, has pressure and all that because of the season, the team type of team they had. But I mean, there's always pressure. When you at Duke and all that, you compare it to Coach K, there's always going to be pressure and all that. And I think Shire's going to feel it because now with the class he has coming in next year, the ungodly expectations that come with that. So like you get bounced in the first round this year, it could be they'll be like, all right, well, you better do something next year with them with this, one of the greatest recruiting classes of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way, now I think year 3 Shire is going to start feeling a little bit more, but if at least he gets a Sweet 16, I think it won't be too bad, but they get bounced any earlier than that, it could be something for Duke. But I think that's, as far as teams or players.
I'll add one more real quick.
Want to hear this one?
In the Big Ten again, Illinois.
Illinois, yeah, you're right.
Illinois hasn't been out the first weekend since Darren Williams and Luther Heading them.
Oh, that's 2005. Oh, Luther.
That's going on
national championship year. And then they play Carolina, right? That year, yeah. They Carolina that year. That's a long.
They got to get out the first weekend.
That's 20 years ago.
They got to get out the first weekend. They just have to. And I'm not saying Brad that would put him on the hot seat, but for the success that he's had and that he's built at that program, you have to start to get some positive momentum when it matters the most, and you got to get out that first weekend. You just have to, especially with this team.
Because then you built in what happened last year and all the madness that happened, and then you get bounced in the first round, against Morehead State, or that's definitely gonna have people thinking about Brad. But I mean, the way Terrence Shannon's been hoping,
yeah,
you got to figure it out, Brad. You got to figure it out because you can't get bounced out. I mean, they've had a really good season. It would be unfortunate to lose early and all that because they have a nice path to the Sweet 16. I mean, their path to the Sweet 16 is pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens with them. But yeah, that's another team with some pressure and all. But I mean, I can't think of anybody else under pressure. I mean, Houston.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit, right? A little bit, because like if Nebraska, what if Nebraska sneaks up on them? Then we got to talk like, oh man, like they dominated, and or Duke. What if Duke, upsets them? Because I mean, their path to the national championship, Houston is. I mean, they got the easiest path to the national championship, right? As all the number 1 seeds, they have the easiest, right? I think.
Yeah. I'd agree with
Purdue
that.
but Purdue, TCU can, but I mean, yeah, Houston. I mean, their path to the national championship is pretty smooth. So if anything short of that, it would be a disappointment too. And then, but yeah, I mean, we got Sparty going to the Elite 8. But it's not a crazy. It's really not a crazy. Like even when I did this, we did competitive with Ken and me and Mo. Like we're like, Sparty could beat North Carolina, and then Sparty could beat Grand Canyon or Charleston or even St. Mary's. Like, they could beat those teams. So like that's not a far-fetched idea. So it's gonna be interesting to see, man. It's gonna be exciting and all that, and Can Sparty do some things? Can my Blue Devils, we can still get to the national. My prediction on the national championship still happen, Kev. We can still get to the national championships. That's the only way we're going to meet is in the national championship before that. But it's going to be interesting to see. I'm sure me and you are going to be both, tripping when our teams play. Will you guys play Saturday? Or you guys? No,
Thursday.
Saturday.
We're first thing in the morning Thursday.
Oh, right. I just mentioned it before. That's 9 a.m. for you out west. When does Duke play? The next day. But we got a night game and all that. So that's it. We got our Final Four: UConn, Arizona, Houston, Creighton, with UConn playing Houston and Houston cutting down the nets in Arizona. And like we said, Kelvin Sampson winning his first national championship. But it's going to be a good one. We're excited. Games start. When are the play-in games start?
I want to say tomorrow or Wednesday.
All right. We got the play-in, and then the first round officially starts Thursday. So make sure to get your bracket. I'm going to create a bracket for the Off the Ball Network, and so you'll make sure to check that out on my Twitter feed. Follow me, Off the Ball Pod. I'll have that posted on there. Also on the OTBN_network Twitter handle. We'll have that. Last few years we've had some good turnouts. We have surprises on the line, so make sure to sign up for that. We'll do men's and women's and all that bracket, so make sure to sign up for that. But Kev, another good Get a Bucket podcast in the books. March Madness is here. Good one, brother.
Yes, sir. Appreciate everybody that tapped in. Let's enjoy this last few weeks of college basketball, this 23-24 season. Let's keep it going, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate we got over 200 people watching, so appreciate everyone who tuned in and all that, everyone who commented and all that. Appreciate that. Last few shows have done some solid numbers, so appreciate the numbers keep going up and up and all that. So appreciate all that. Appreciate all the support and all that. But Get a Bucket podcast. Follow me, Off the Ball Pod. Kev, where can they follow you?
At Kevo Mufasa 7, KEVOOMUFASA 7 on all social media platforms. You follow me, I'll follow back.
Yes, sir. Same here. You can follow me. I talk all NBA, college basketball, crew, all that good stuff. So make sure to follow me, Off the Ball Pod, and talk ball and all that. But on that note, we'll probably get something in after the first weekend, and we'll go over that first round. And we'll see if Sparty and Duke advances, or we'll be sick to our stomach. So we'll see by our faces when we go. But Get a Bucket podcast. We out.
Peace.